Faith here from Full Circle Herbals. Today we're talking about herbal actions and indications. This is one of the other topics that was very overwhelming to me because there's so many terms for herbal actions, and some plants have multiple actions that they can be related to. The other term for herbal actions is herbal properties. You might see that in using interchangeably in things that you read. An herbal action or herbal property is essentially a broad term that will have many plants that can go in that. So for example, I use the emollient term in the learning module. And an emollient is any kind of plant that will help soothe the skin. So there's many, many plants that could be listed under those. One of the things that always really perplexed me when I was first starting learning about herbs, especially in my teens, was that how come there were so many different plants that did the same thing? And for some reason that made me think that it was all just made up, and that people were just making these things up and just saying, oh yeah, that plant can be good for soothing the skin. And what I finally came to realize many years later is that the plants that we have access to now are from all over the world. So some of the plants that are good for soothing the skin, for example, are not available in every single part of the world. So of course now we have a wide variety of things that we can pull from because all the travel around the world, everything's mixing together. And we also have to remember that there's different kinds of herbalism. So therefore, there's different thoughts on which plants will work. For example, there's Ayurvedic, there's the wise woman tradition, there's Chinese medicinal herbalism, and so they're going to be utilizing the plants in their area. So it makes sense that we have this wide list of plants that can be used. The other thing that really tripped me up was that one plant could have many herbal actions associated with it. So I used the example of comfrey in the learning module and how it is anything from helping to help with broken bones internally, to externally helping with wound repair, to anti-diarrheal. And I just thought to myself, how can one plant have so many varieties of uses? Isn't it just like one use? Well, come to find out, even in the medical field, the prescription medications that are out there, they even have more than one use. There's a certain medication out there that's used for depression and post PMS. So, and it's also used for people with chronic headaches. So that's, kind of a wide ranging thing there, and plants are the same way. Now also, plants have so many different chemicals and constituents wrapped up in them that when we ingest them or put them on our skin, our body will be able to use whatever chemical or constituents are in that plant. And the rest of it just isn't used. And, even with vitamin C, if you take too much vitamin C, the rest of it's just washed out into the urine. And I believe that there are things within the plants that are the same way. If your body doesn't need them, doesn't uptake them, then it just washes out of the body. So I think that's why plants have so many different uses within us. It's because some of their constituents just are used while other ones in our body just doesn't use them. I want to start with this one because if you start to just look at the herbal actions worksheet and start writing down all the herbal actions there are many, maybe like 100 or so. And then when you start looking at the herbal action and what all the plants go with it, then you start kind of going off on a tangent and looking into those, reading about those plants. And it can be very, it's just a lot of information. So what I suggest is doing a personal health assessment on yourself or your family, and just focusing on a few health issues or goals. So if there's an issue of anxiety within the family, just from worrying about doing a presentation for school or just regular anxiety from having a long day, you could put that health goal in here. And so that if the issue is anxiety and you want more calm at the end of the day, So then you know what your health issue is. So then you go back to your Herbal Actions worksheet and start looking up all of the anything that has to do with anxiety. And you'll probably come up with a term called nervines. So then you can put that on your Herbal Actions worksheet. You can put nervines up here, put your definition, and then start looking up in your books or online about herbs that are good for nervines. So you might come up with like motherwort, lemon balm, chamomile, of course, very mild and gentle for kids, as well as lemon balm. You might come up with passion flower, skullcap, and the list goes on. So of the list of plants for your health assessment, I would focus on plants that you either know are in your area or that you already have harvested in your house, or ones that you can find at a local health store, just something that is closest to you. So motherwort grows in my lawn. I have lemon balm, and I know that I have skullcap in a tea mix in my cupboard. So then I can put those down. Now, the good thing is once you hit those Herbal Actions, then now you can start to focus on these plants and look up those plants and see if they are good for what you're looking for. So for motherwort, for example, it is usually used, mothers, historically, it's for mothers. And but it can be definitely used for men. It also helps with heart palpitations. So if that's one of the indications that you have as the health, during anxiety, I have heart palpitations, sweaty palms. It's good to list kind of the symptoms you're having with them too, because you might be finding these keywords as you look up these certain plants. If you want them for kids, lemon balm is very good. Skullcap is good for, and it's usually in sleep mixes, although I've also been, it's never made me so sleepy I couldn't function the day either, so it could be something you could use. And then another herbal action that you might want to put down here, not so much an action, it's more of an application that we'll get into in the other modules, but it's nourishing infusion. And the reason why I talk about that is sometimes there is a need to increase vitamins and minerals to help the body be just nourished and have that for the anxiety, because there is some thought that maybe the anxiety is your body's way of saying something's missing and I need something more. It's kind of your alert system going off. And one of the things I like to do is make sure that I'm getting all the nutrients that I need to help my body. Maybe I'm low on something and I start doing some nourishing infusion. So I would say nettles is good. Nettles and milky oat straw is another one that would be good. So you can see how you can really focus. Sorry, you might be hearing my son right now. He is 4 years old and trying to get my attention and chewing his gum loudly in our ears. So these are the things I'd like to start putting down. I have access to these plants. I know that I can focus on these actions rather than a million other actions that might be out there. The hundreds of actions out there that I could focus on. And so this is just a study tool of how can I focus on information, herbal information that I'll actually use in my life. And so this is one way you can do that with the personal health assessment. Then you can see, you can go down here and start with another health goal you may have, and then start looking up plants and herbal actions that would go with it. So this is just a really good way to focus on what you're going to put, how you're going to focus on your worksheets for herbal actions and indications. So you have a place here to put your indication in here, and let's just say we want to put down coughing, coughs, things like that. That's your indication. It's indicating something's wrong, something you don't want in your health. And then you can start looking up the plants that help with coughing. So for example, there's bee balm, also called Monarda. And usually the fistulosa. Here it is, something like that. Another one that helps with cough is wild cherry bark. That one is called Prunus serotina. And again, it's really good to try to keep track of Latin names, because what one person calls wild cherry bark might not be what you are considering wild cherry bark. Sometimes I just add the common names, and then later on I go back and look for Latin names, especially if I have, let's say, 5 indication pages already done. Then I'll go back and fill in the Latin names, because I might have bee balm on multiple pages, because of course bee balm can be used for multiple things. So then I can just rewrite Monarda fistulosa, let's say 3 times on different worksheets, but I don't have to keep looking it up. So for example, if I just did all my indications worksheet for coughing, I'd have to look up all the common names I put on here. Let's say I put 5 on here, then I have to go look it up 5 times. If I have 5 of my worksheets out with different indications, and there's overlap with the common names, and I'm using the same plants, then I don't have to look it up for every single worksheet. I can just transfer Monarda onto all the other worksheets that I've found it on. This is a good learning tool, because of course we're learning about these things as we read them or listen to people on the internet. And another way to make that information stick is to go back and say, okay, I'm going to capture all the information I know about what can help with coughs, and start to keep track of that. So if you listen to, let's say, a webinar, and you take notes, and on there maybe you have 5 indications, and they've given you 2 plants for each indication, then you can go back through your herbal indications worksheets like this and start adding on those plants you just learned, or start a new worksheet for that indication. It's just another learning tool. The other way that this is really helpful is that if you start to get a cough, and you think, well, what can I take? I don't know if you're like me, but when I'm sick, I can't think very clearly about what it's going to help me. And it would be great if it's great when I can just pull out my worksheet and say, okay, what are the plants that are good for coughs? And then of those plants, which ones do I have access to? And you'll learn that there's different coughs, like really deep coughs or a tickling cough. And some of these plants are better for different types of coughs. So then you can start looking at the plants and remembering, okay, which one's good for a long-term cough, and so on and so forth. So it'll help you when you're in the midst of your own illness or a family member's illness. It'll help you remember which plants go with the indication. So it's a learning tool. And then also it will help you add to your database of what can help with indications as you hear new teachers or read new books and things like that. All right, then we'll look at our herbal actions worksheet. So here is one that we can put here. So let's just say the action is emollient. And then we have a spot for definitions. So we can say it's herbs that soothe the skin. External applications. So you can remember what they are. Another learning tool just to remember your definitions. And then again, we'll come down here and start listing all the plants that we know for emollient. So aloe is a good one for soothing the skin, as is calendula, lavender, and so on and so forth. And again, you can put those Latin names in eventually. Now, again, with these emollients, some of these plants you wouldn't necessarily want to use for certain situations. Like lavender is supposed to be much better on burns. Calendula is really good for babies. I mean, it's good for anybody, but it's really soothing to babies. So is lavender. Aloe, again, is good for soothing burns, and calendula is good for soothing like a wound, if the wound is clean and kind of healing, or a scar. That's what it's good for too. So you'll amass a long list of different emollients, but again, they'll have kind of different uses for them, and sometimes you have them available and sometimes you don't. For example, I don't grow aloe in my house or outside. I do grow calendula, however, it's not in bloom right now for me. It's just starting. So hopefully I'll have some stockpile of calendula soon. I do have lavender oil, essential oil, and I have lavender growing in the garden, and I have dried lavender. Let's see, other emollients. There is slippery elm bark can be soothing to the skin. It's often added to powders, like for baby rashes, baby bum rashes. You can add really finely ground up slippery elm bark to help with that. Assessment done, you have your focus on which health goals that you're going to focus on in terms of your herbal study. You're going to link up your herbal study with things that actually apply to you. And then you've decided what plants you're going to use. And here's this little handy worksheet I've created, the Wellness Tracking Sheet: Plants, Spirit, and Medicine. And the reason why I have those three things on here is because you can track the medicine that you take that you've received from a medical doctor. You can put other things in here like meditation, exercise, take a 10-minute walk every other day. Just you can put whatever you want in here. So I like to keep this on my refrigerator. I'll put the date here, and then I'll just put a check mark every time I've done that goal. So like I said, in here, this might be 10-minute walk every other day, and then I just check it off. And I don't have this one so that you can electronically fill it out, but it's a good one to print and put it on, like I said, on your refrigerator or in your day planner or wherever you're going to see it on a daily basis. I found that this just helps me remind me that I have to incorporate these things into my daily life with the things that I'm putting down here as my wellness activities. Another reminder to say, hey, don't forget me, you have to do these. Yes, you're busy with all the other things, but these are extremely important, because without your health, your mental health, your physical well-being, all those things, you can't keep up with all the activities for the day. The date helps remind me to see, oh, I've skipped a few days, I haven't been doing that. And the studies show that if you track your goals, that you'll have more success with them and be more consistent over time. And once you are able to consistently keep track of these things, usually within 30 days, then your brain starts to make some more patterns in your neurons, and you are more apt to just incorporate these normally into your day rather than having to remind yourself. And you could put one out for yourself, and then each of your family members could have one. Even the little kids could have one. Even, if there's some constipation issues with your kids, you could write the date down and write down, drink water for the day and eat fruit, eat a vegetable, and take your fiber gummies, practice sitting on the potty, and then they could come in here and put a sticker, smiley face, or whatever. Even if you are the one, doing it for them, they might be 3 years old or something like that, but you can just show them, hey, look at all the good things you've been doing every single day, and it's a nice positive reinforcement thing. So that's a little bonus that I wanted to include in here, and I would love to hear if this helps you. And please share that on the Facebook page, or just send me a